Okay, so law of cosines, just like law of sines, can be used for any kind of triangle. So, you can use law of cosines for any type of triangle. So it can be a right triangle, it can be obtuse, it can be acute, any kind of triangle. So yesterday, in order to do law of sines, we had to know a side and the angle opposite from it. So for cosines, you can have two different things going on. So you must have the measure of all three sides or two sides and the angle between. So yesterday, we had to have a side and the angle opposite from it, or we couldn't do law of sines. But today you have two scenarios. You can either know all three sides, or you can know two sides and the angle that's between them. Okay. So let's draw our same triangle from yesterday. So our angles are capital and our sides are lowercase, opposite of the angle. So opposite of big A is little a, opposite of big B is little b, and opposite of big C is little c. Now when we use these letters A, B, and C, they're just unknowns. It doesn't have to be A, B, and C. It can be D, E, F. It can be J, K, L. It can be any letters. Okay? The main thing is that your angles are capital and that your lowercase sides are always opposite from them. Okay, so if this was D, E, F, this would be little d, little e, little f. Okay, so the letters are just there. So, law of sines says a squared equals b squared plus c squared. What does that look like? Yeah, Pythagorean theorem. Minus 2bc cosine of a. Okay, so these letters are changeable. So if you start with A, if you're starting with side A, that means you have to know angle A. Okay, but you could also start with side B. So we also could have b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of b. Okay, so the important thing in this is the angle and the opposite side are what you start and finish your equation with. So if you start with A, you have to finish with big A. If you start with B, finish with big B. And same for C. So we could have C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of C. So whatever side you start with, you have to finish with that opposite angle. Okay. And then the other sides, A and B, they're interchangeable. You can have A squared first, you can have B squared first, because when you add two numbers, like 5 and 2, and 2 and 5, do you get the same answer? Yeah. So you can switch those. And then same for the multiplying. If I do 5 times 2 and 2 times 5, that's also the same. So A and B are interchangeable within the longer part of the formula. Okay. Main thing is, if you don't know a side, that's what you're starting with, but you're ending with that angle. Let's do it. It makes more sense. Oh wait, let's write this. So all of this up into the cosine, those are all the sides. Okay. So yesterday we had a side over an angle, a side over an angle. Today it's mostly sides. We only have one angle, and that's what we're ending with in that cosine. Okay. So today our sides are more important. Yesterday we needed both, side angle. But today we need sides, but only one angle. Alright, now let's do it. So let's say we have this triangle. And we have our bottom angle is 30. We've got 25 and 15 are our sides, and we want to find this little c. Okay, so I have to either know all three sides or two sides and the angle between. Well, I know I don't know all three sides because I'm trying to find one of them. But do I know two sides and the angle between? Yeah. So I know 25 and 15, and that 30 is in the middle. So when we go to plug into this formula, C is what we're looking for. So C squared is what we want to start with, because big C is the angle that we know. Okay. So to plug it in, we'll say C squared equals. Now, it doesn't matter if you make 25 your A or if you make 15 your A. It doesn't matter. You get the same answer either way. So in our picture, A is 15, so we'll use 15. But again, it doesn't matter. Those are interchangeable. And so you plug it in. So everywhere we had an A, we put 15. Everywhere we had a B, we put 25. And then we started with side C, so we end with angle C, which was 30. Any questions plugging it in? Okay. So now, these are pretty easy because our variable is already kind of almost by itself. So all I have to do is type this whole thing in my calculator. You still want to be in degree mode. So make sure of that before you type it all in. And so hopefully you get about 200.48. So is that it? No. Good. So it's c squared. So we don't want c squared, we just want c. So to get rid of the square root. And so just like yesterday, you can type in the square root and then you can hit that second negative and that'll bring that whole decimal down there and then you don't lose any of them. And so we get about 14.16. Do hundreds. Yeah. Any questions on that? So hopefully not too terrible. I know it's a pretty long formula, but it's not too bad. Okay, so let's do one where we want to find an angle. So let's say we've got 41.6, 50, and 31.5, and we want to find this angle up top. We'll call it angle A. Okay, so in this one, we know all three sides and we're looking for an angle. So we are looking for angle A. So the formula that I want to use is going to be ending in angle A. So if I'm ending in angle A, I have to start with side A. Okay, so that means I'm going to start with this 31.5 squared. Okay, so you always start with the side opposite of the angle you're trying to find. So we're trying to find big A, so we start with little a. So 31.5 squared equals. Now again, the other two, it doesn't matter. You can make 41.6b, you can make 50c. It don't matter. You'll get the same answer. So I'm going to just make 41.6 my b. So that's squared plus 50 squared minus 2 times 41.6 times 50. And then cosine of a, because that's what we are trying to find. Okay, so these, when you're finding the angle, are a little bit different because our unknown is on the right with all the other stuff, so we have to get it by itself. So what you want to do is you want to kind of split this into little pieces, and you want to simplify each little piece. So first we're just going to do this 31.5 squared. Okay, so that's our first thing that we want to simplify. So that gives us 992.25. Okay. And so I have adding and I have subtracting. Well, if I look at 41.6 squared and 50 squared, those are like terms, so I can add those together. But if I look at this subtracting, it's 2 times all of this cosine of A. Well, those aren't like terms because this side has an A, these two don't. So my next piece is just the adding with the squares, okay? So 41.6 squared plus 50 squared. And that gives us that 4,230.56. Now if I'm looking at this, I know I'm going to have to get this cosine by itself. But we need to simplify everything first. Well, if all of this is multiplication, you can multiply like 2 times 2x, and that's fine. So remember, you can multiply and you can divide. You just don't want to add and subtract. So we can go ahead and multiply all of these, our 3 numbers, 2, 41.6, and 50. And that'll give us 4160. And then we just bring down the cosine of A. Okay. And so you always want to simplify in those pieces. So do the squared, the adding the squareds, and then the multiplying. Any questions on that, though? Alrighty. So again, we know we're going to have to do inverse of this cosine, but we have to get that cosine by itself first. So if this was just a regular old equation, what would I do to solve for that A? Minus. Good. So first we want to subtract this 4230.56. So if we subtract those, we get this. So negative 3,238.31. So now, how can I move that negative 4160? Good. Divide it. So that gives us this decimal. 0.7784. And then my last step to get A by itself, what should I do? Move that cosine. Good. Good, the inverse. So cosine to negative 1. And so again, if you don't want to lose your decimals, you can do second cosine. You can hit second negative. And there it is. So 38.88 degrees, because we are talking about the angle. Now another way that you can type it, let's say that you accidentally type something else, but you want to get this 0.77, you can hit the second cosine and then go up to that answer and hit enter, and it'll plug it in there for you also. So either way, whether you do it with the answer or that way, you get the same answer. Two times 41.6 times 50. Any other questions on this one? So I know it was a lot and it was big numbers, but hopefully not too terrible. And you always simplify the pieces the same way. So the squared, adding the squareds, multiplying. And then your steps are always the same also. You always subtract, you always divide, do the inverse. Let's do one more. So let's say that it just tells me stuff. Let's say it tells me that we want to find little c if big C is 105, little a is 18, and little b is 16. Oh, can't say it, sorry. Now, if it gives me this, do I necessarily have to draw a picture? No. So if I just look at my formulas, we want to find little c. Well, if I look at little c, I need A, B, and big C. Well, it gives me A, B, and big C. So really all you have to do is plug into the formula. Now, you can draw a picture if you want to, but you don't really have to. So c squared equals, it tells me A is 18, so 18 squared, plus B is 16, so 16 squared, minus 2 times 18 times 16, cosine of big C, which is 105. And of course, if you want to, you can always draw a triangle. It's up to you, but a little bit easier on yourself, a little less work if you just plug it in. And so on this one, we're looking for c squared. It's kind of already by itself over there, so I can type this whole right side in. And hopefully we get 729.07977. And then what should I do to get c by itself? Get square root. And so hopefully we get 27.001. Questions?